Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. In our first story, we tell you how a petty crook was punished for refusing to pay for car repairs in a very creative way. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Don't mess with the person fixing your car. This is not my story. A buddy of mine used to do car AV in his garage/driveway for some extra cash during high school. One weekend, I was helping him finish up a car. There was a local kid notorious for not paying for things, stealing, etc., being a D-bag. So on this fair weekend, said kid had procured a new radio for his Honda Accord and asked my friend to install it. No problem. He probably asked him for $50. Long story short, his policy was cash up front or no dice. Kid came up with every excuse under the sun as to why he needed it done fast but would pay for it later. So my buddy agrees. I'm shaking my head at this point, but it wasn't my call. We tear into his car. While I'm piecing together the new harness, my buddy's under the hood laughing and tracing the horn and wiper wires. Knowing the kid wasn't going to pay, he wired everything to a relay. So when the radio turns on, the horn and wipers also go on. Genius. Kid comes to pick up his car, end of the day, and sure enough, doesn't/can't pay. But threatens to call the cops, etc., so my buddy gives him his car back, no hassle. My buddy said, fine, take it. Kid pulls out of the driveway, and you hear, honk, honk. I remember us almost peeing ourselves laughing. Kid gets PO'd, threatens to sue, cops, etc. My buddy tells him when he pays, he'll fix it. Kid tells him to go F himself. We never spoke to him after that, but from what we heard, his parents took the car to the dealership and paid big dollars to get it fixed. And our next story. Rob me? I'll find you and deport you. So one night in 2013, I was in town for partying. I'm a full-time DJ now, playing in the range of 150 gigs a year, so I still party, but now I'm getting paid for it. I'm also an avid book reader and had a 7-inch Google Nexus tablet for that purpose, which I had with me for the train/bus trips since it actually fits my back pocket. I decide to head home around 3 a.m. Not being drunk, I quit drinking 2 years before that, but stopped for some Mexican food along the way, which I bring with me in the train. In the train, there's a guy in a blue jacket who has a bike. I didn't notice him at first, but looking back after the robbery, I did notice him in the train because of his jacket standing out. I just didn't realize it at the time. He spotted me reading on my tablet. I exit the train and decide to eat my food at the station. The guy notices this, but exits the station along with everyone else. 5 minutes later, I finish my food and the station is deserted by now. I head down the stairs and notice that the guy in the blue jacket is there, wandering around, pretending to be drunk. I thought he actually was drunk. He asked me what time it was, which I showed him on my tablet, so he was scouting me out. He then replies, "Aw crap, I'm so wasted, man," in English, not the native language of my country, and proceeds to exit the station from a different exit from the one I take. I have a little over a kilometer home, so I plug in my headphones and start a frisk run home. Around 2 minutes into the run, a guy comes from behind on his bike, literally jumps off it, and jumps me at the side of the road leading into the park. After a short wrestle, he manages to get me on the ground. He then proceeds to get my tablet, my wallet, and my iPod Touch with a broken screen, but he misses my phone, which was a crappy bottom-scraping smartphone anyway. He then tells me to stay down while he starts running back towards his bike, which is lying down on the ground. Now, I'm not strong, but I am a fighting spirit, so like hell I will. I get up, get my keys, and proceed to pounce on him while he's gathering his bike, using my keys as a weapon, a trick my karate trainer taught me in self-defense, between my knuckles, trying to punch him in the face and hit his eyes. Unfortunately, I fail. He gets me down again and proceeds to finish it off with a massive kick. I'm up again relatively quickly, but this time he finally gets away. Now at this point, I'm desperate to call the police fast, but I didn't realize he didn't get my phone, so I proceeded to stop the first car on the road in order to call for help. Inside is a somewhat elderly man in his 50s, but when he notices that I have blood all over my face, he panics and speeds away. Fortunately, the next car with 2 guys stop and allow me to call the police. And boy did they respond fast. They were pretty much there in no more than 3 minutes after the call, 4 minutes after the robbery. So instead of going straight to the hospital, we actually take a quick car ride in the direction he went biking to see if we can catch him. Unfortunately, he's gone, so the police take my statement at the station, even collect my clothes for evidence / potential DNA from the fight, and to the hospital I go. I was assaulted a little past 3 a.m. and exited the hospital around 11 a.m. Result: pressured ribs, broken nose, broken lip, one bloody eye, and my face looked like a complete disaster. More so in the days after. I was on sick leave from work for 4 weeks from my first job. For my second job, I was on sick leave for 2 weeks and worked another 2 weeks at half hours. I gave my statements to the police. Tracking the culprit. So a quick note, besides my DJ career, which at that point was just starting up, I work in IT and I'm a tech geek. For that reason, my Nexus tablet, which is running Android, was rooted, meaning I had gotten access to the complete file system. In addition, because it was rooted, it allowed me to install a tracking application that, when using on a rooted device, you can install in a way that allowed you to track the device even if it was factory reset. So one of the things I almost instantly did at home was to report the device lost at the tracking application's web interface and then wait for it to pop up. It takes exactly 1 week for my tablet to pop up on the anti-theft service. It's at a house somewhere around 20 kilometers north. Now at this point, a happy coincidence kind of happened. I have a female cousin on my father's side who I don't see much, but she happened to be married to a cop at the time. Let's call him Charlie. Charlie, even though we'd never met each other more than a few times, recognized my picture when he happened to stop by the case. When I reported the location of the tablet to the police, he decides to take a colleague and go kick down the door, metaphorically speaking, but that's the phrase he used at the house. Turns out a retired cop lives there. He had a tablet like mine, and he had his daughter bring it to the shop for repair, and the shop had given them my tablet back instead of their own. Charlie and his colleague get the name and address of the shop, go there, and make the owner cough up where he got the tablet. They got a name, but I was told they decided to get a warrant and return later to raid the place anyway, which made me a happy man inside. 1 week later, and I'm now sitting at the police station with my tablet in hand. Unfortunately, it now belonged to the insurance company since they paid out the insurance for my lost stuff, but it felt good to know that all that effort I put into keeping my devices theft secure wasn't in vain. In addition, I was given photos of 10 suspects and managed to identify the correct one they decided to put a warrant out for. They had managed to identify him from the security footage from the train station and the train, in addition to the name given by the owner of the repair shop. Funny side note, I'd actually had to help the police with playing the footage a week earlier since they're somewhat IT imbeciles and couldn't figure out how to play the footage in the format they'd received it from the train company on their work computers. A few months later, I get a mail from the officer handling my case saying they got him. The trial. The case goes to trial. At this point, he's been in prison for half a year since they were checking up on other crimes he'd committed. Turns out he'd robbed a girl's phone the same night. She testifies first, but I didn't get to listen to her testimony. She comes out of the courtroom and she's crying with her sister and mother consoling her. I never got to talk to her, so I don't know who she was. My turn. I go in dead cold, testify before the judge and 2 lay judges, calmly explaining the events. Guy's sitting there. He has a translator in addition to his attorney since he's a foreigner. I don't stay for the sentencing, but my attorney calls me later. Guy got 1.5 years in prison. He already served the first half year and was banned from entering the country for another 6 years after that. I was awarded around the equivalent of $3,000 in damages. Around $1,000 was to cover their lost items. Insurance doesn't cover the first $350 and lost work hours. And another $2,000 because they deemed his assault on me to be significantly violent. Judges had seen the pictures of the damage he inflicted. I don't know what the girl was awarded, but I suspect it was less than me. We don't really get rewarded big damages in my country, but it was more than enough for me and I was happy. Afterthoughts. I'm a very steady person with a personality made of solid granite, so I was mostly unaffected psychologically by the events of that night, with a few exceptions. For a few years after, I would get jump scared when a bike would pass close by me, and I would immediately go into battle mode. This has mostly gone away now, but other than that, it takes way more than one massive a-hole to bring me down mentally. The person that I'm most angry at in this entire chain of events was not even the robber, but stopping a car when you're in need of help and seeing the help you're expecting to get just accelerate and drive away really hurt me inside. I also regret not getting the contact info of the two guys who did stop and help me call the police. And our last short story. Stupid supervisor, tricks are for kids. I work with a short middle-aged guy that loves to do nothing but micromanage, take credit, and make you do stupid work. I call him the dictator. Not to his face, mainly because the power he's been given has clearly gone to his head. I started several large projects on my own, and when he noticed I was doing extra work, he tried to step in and take all of the credit. I let him take full credit for a completely bombed project. Teach him to try to take credit and be a jerk at work. I've also been sure to bring up his indiscretions at department meetings when his rulings are against the employee policy manual, i.e. that he can't call you whatever the F he feels like it if you're scheduled for on-call at some point that day or evening. It's great watching him make a fool out of himself, especially since he's never wrong. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.